let's open up with that information. So originally, it was posted by Dexterito. I believe that's how it is. I don't even know how to pronounce it, to be honest with you. And it says Sega reveals a new Crazy Taxi game. Will be an open world MMO. So I went and looked for it because there wasn't much. There wasn't a link story. It was just just a post. But you know what's interesting? This post from yesterday has 2 million views. Okay. That's the post. All it says is Sega reveals new Crazy Taxi game will be an open MMO. That's it, right? 29,000 likes, Jamie Moran, and 3.9K retweets, 553 responses. To say that people are excited for a new Crazy Taxi would be an understatement. So I went looking. And well, I pulled a story from Engadget. It was written by Lawrence Bonk. And I like the Bonk last name because that reminds me of TurboGrafx 16, because Bonk was a dope-ass character. It says in the lead story, Jamie Moran, Sega's new Crazy Taxi reboot will be an open-world MMO. The developers tease a theme park-like map inspired by California? What is happening? So I'm going to read verbatim from the story, and it says Sega's upcoming Crazy Taxi reboot is going to be an open world, massively multiplayer online or MMO game, according to a developer interview on YouTube. The interview includes both quotes from Sega's team and some brief instances of current game footage. Now, the series producer, Kenji Kano, confirmed that the reboot will be playable by many people at once, though the company is still testing the game's early mechanics. The goal, according to the interview, and of course, according to the translation, is to maintain the feel of the original franchise and its entries while incorporating an MMO element. To that end, the footage shows multiple yellow taxis racing one another with police cars in pursuit. Oddly enough, the police cars are convertibles, Jamie. Look, I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a nerd, and I'm proud of it. And when I hear and I read stories like this, I get freaking goosebumps, because if there is one company that is true to this old man's heart, and it's not Nintendo. As much as I love Nintendo, it's Sega. And it's always going to be the first time I popped on the Master System, and the second time I put on the Sega Genesis. And then after that, it was the Saturn. And then, of course, my favorite console of all time is the Sega Dreamcast. The fact that in 2024, Jamie Moran, that we are talking about Crazy Taxi, there's footage of Jet Set Radio reboot out there. We know that they're working on a new House of the Dead. How could you not be giddy like a kid? Let's talk about it, man.
You know, before I get into Crazy Taxi quickly, I'll tell you that there's 2 Jet Set Radio games in development.
So, well, not know that, and that makes me even more happy.
Yeah, so that's good. I love the fact that Sega's having this big turnaround, because for the longest time people just looked at them as the Sega studio, the Sonic studio. They only put out Sonic, and most Sonic games, I'll come out and say it, aren't that good, right? I think a lot of people agree with me. They put out Persona, which is great, and Yakuza, which is great, but they're early 2000s games, like Crazy Taxi sticks in people's minds. Like you see a single frame of Crazy Taxi and you think The Offspring, right? That first level sticks in everyone's minds. It's a brilliant game, and it's such an easy concept.
Every time that song comes on, my wife starts singing it, and she starts talking about Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, it's such a cool game, and it's like the definition of a video game, And all you do is you pick people up and take them to another location. You're a taxi driver. It was in the UK. Crazy Taxi was big in the arcades in the early 2000s, like huge. Like you couldn't get on a Crazy Taxi arcade machine. People had to line up for ages to play them. So when it's on consoles, like people loved it. It sold out over here, and we haven't really had games like that. You've had games on Xbox Live Arcade and stuff, which kind of emulate that, but the fact that it's coming back. And by the way, I was telling people about 3 or 4 months ago, I sent you the tweet that it's going to have a 100-player mode. People didn't believe me. They're like, how is Crazy Taxi going to have 100 players? But if you really think about it, Crazy Taxi actually suits the GTA online model. It's just you don't get out your car.
Right. You just drive around. Yeah, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I think, this is going to be big for Sega because a lot of eyes on that Crazy Taxi announcement. Everything about Crazy Taxi is getting a lot of attention at the minute. Because I think people are getting sick of, like, every time you go online, it's always talk about battle passes, battle royales and stuff, PvP. And like Crazy Taxi, it wasn't about how many wins you got. It was about having fun. Like just taking taking people to the next stop and just having fun. And this is going to have 100 players. There's going to be cops. Like, it's going to be absolute madness. And I think that's something we don't have in video games now. Like, yeah, you have it scattered about a bit, but like Crazy Taxi, like, it's just about driving around to music and having fun. And this is going to be a big thing for Sega because there's been rumors for years that Sega was working on this massive, super game. But their super game is actually 5 small games, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio Reboot, Shinobi, Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
So it Sega's back. They didn't go away, obviously, but Sega's like they're clearly going to come out with more regular releases because outside of Persona and Like a Dragon, they don't really come out with much often.
Right.
And I think this is going to poise them to be an even bigger publisher because, unfortunately, in Japan, the arcades shut down because the business model's crashing.
Yeah, it sure did, brother. Yeah.
And by the way, that was one of the places I wanted to go to when I go to Tokyo, and they bloody shut it down. But
I mean, they do have some areas in Tokyo that do have arcades. It's just the arcade scene is much, much smaller, but they do exist. There are a few in downtown Tokyo that actually, I mean, they have barcades down there like we have them here, but the true arcades, like the one I grew up in, like, again, if you're a New York native and you're familiar with Central Avenue in Yonkers, they had a Nathan's, like the hot dog people. And it was it was ginormous. And maybe I'm remembering it too big because I was a kid, but it had like 200 cabinets in there. And you know how when you walk into an arcade, there's that smell, like there's that of all the circuitry and people smoking. And not the smoking that I like because I was asthmatic, so I didn't like it. But oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps, ladies and gentlemen. I know where you're going, Jamie. Please continue.
Yeah, like I think people are just ready for like this type of gaming to come back.
Yeah.
Crazy Taxi was never at the time like the most realistic looking game. You're driving around in this box shaped taxi around box shaped buildings, and it was just fun. And it's kind of funny because people always talk about my video game I'm playing has clipping, so it's got bugs. We're talking about like people wanting the most Unreal Engine 5, graphics with ray trace and all this stuff, and it's like Crazy Taxi has people's attention, and that doesn't look fancy. It's just people driving around and having fun. And you mentioned the arcade having a smell thing. My local arcade, which unfortunately shut down in 2009, it was half arcade, half pub. So it smelled like beer and vodka mixed with that sweaty arcade smell. So you had people going around playing Crazy Taxi and Afterburner.
Oh, man.
While someone was peeing in the corner. Just had to mention that.
I mean, listen, is it an arcade if somebody didn't pee in a corner? I mean, honestly, come on. What world are we living in, Jamie? Oh my goodness. Look, Jamie, you're hitting a home run every time you step up to the plate, being a part of this show. And that breakdown of Crazy Taxi is exactly why we love video games. Like, honestly, you can hear the excitement in my voice. You can hear the excitement in the voice of Jamie Moran, but you know whose voice we haven't heard? That would be Infinite Umbra, one of the best voices, Mr. Unreal Engine himself. Infinite Umbra, how are you feeling, sir?
Yeah. Hey, I heard you guys talking about the Offspring, and every time I see Crazy Taxi, it's 2 things that pop up in my head. Is one is the hey, and Crazy Taxi, and the second is the Offspring. Day after day, you get no relief. I mean, how can you not pair them together, right?
Yeah.
spectacular game. I used to love that game on Dreamcast, man. It used to be one of my favorites. And now seeing that it's supposedly an MMO, I'm like, how's that going to work out? And then I saw your tweet, Jamie, where you're talking about 100-player. What is it? Type 100-player. What is it?
100-player MMO. Yeah, that's been confirmed that it is going to be an MMO. You're going to have, and again, we don't know the ratio, but it seems like it's going to be maybe 50 on 50. So there's going to be cops chasing crazy taxi drivers, and I would imagine there's going to be, like, while you're being chased by the police, you're going to have to drop off and pick up customers. That freaking sounds so good. I don't even know what to say.
No, man, it looks dope from what I saw. I saw the cops on the little snippet that we get to see of gameplay chasing at. It looks so fun. I'm guessing they'll have an option where we get to play as the cops too, chasing.
Oh yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. It makes me think of, when I see that aspect, it makes me think of one of my favorite Need for Speed games. What was it? Hot Pursuit. It makes me think of
Hot Pursuit was freaking dope AF, bro. Yeah. Like, I would actually take a remake of that game.
Oh man, me too. And I mean, you have the obvious. What was that Need for Speed that came out on the 360?
Are you talking about? Most Wanted is my favorite.
Most Wanted. That's probably top.
And they're remaking that supposedly, which I don't listen, folks. I know a lot of people feel about the remake stuff. I'm not even gonna front. If EA remakes Most Wanted, the first one, I don't care if I spend $70 on that. I'm buying that day freaking one.
I'm definitely getting it, and it's the I don't want to say advent, but it's the addition of the cops chasing after you that just kind of amps up the whole aspect of what you're doing. And so Crazy Taxi adding something like that into it just makes me think of the whole stop now when police chasing after you and Most Wanted. Freeze, stop! And they screaming at you over the little microphone is hilarious, but
it almost seems like it's a natural succession, Umber. Yeah, like when you consider how the illegal driving that you're doing in Crazy Taxi. I mean, you're nearly mowing down hordes of pedestrians. So you would imagine that it almost seems like a natural transition to get cops to chase you. Right. I absolutely love this idea. I'm like the oldest guy most of the time in the room. So when I as a nostalgic kind of a gamer think back to Sega, and I think about specifically like the Dreamcast, where it had so many incredible experiences. Crazy Taxi was one of them. We're gonna get a new Crazy Taxi potentially next year. That's crazy, Umber, to even think about.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, I love it, man. This is, to me, I feel like if you're going to bring back games, because we always see the obvious with Sony, you see they bringing back games that's not even 5 years out or 6 years out. Yeah, and there's so many other games that we could be bringing back, or they could be bringing back, that would deserve that shine and deserve that franchise to continue on. In my opinion, I was talking about this on PTK's podcast this past Saturday, which is things like the Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, right? That series should be rebooted. That should be brought back.
Well, I mean, isn't there like a graphic novel coming out?
Yeah, it is. I saw that.
It was just announced. So I mean, if there's interest for a graphic novel, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, maybe that's the foundation being laid for it. We already know about Splinter Cell coming back, so like those are things that deserve to be there, right? So having a lot of these Sega Genesis, not Sega Genesis, but these Sega revitalizations of IP, I'm all for it, man. I mean, hell, if I had my way, I would tell them to redo Shenmue too. You know what I mean? And
dude, I saw a lot of people in the chat talking about Sega, because obviously there's a lot of Sega fans here. At the end of the article, which is very exciting for me, like I said, as much as I love Nintendo, you guys and gals know I talk about Nintendo unashamedly. I buy every game that comes out that's first party. I got 100 physical games, like right here. And I don't get just one. I buy two. Tyler always gets a copy with me. That kid is a Nintendo kid through and through. And one of the best Smash Brother players I've ever seen. That his skills are just legendarily ridiculous. But on the last paragraph of this particular topic, it says this reboot is just one of Sega's upcoming visits to the nostalgia well. The company recently announced that it's breaking out many of its dusty IPs to work on modern versions that include Crazy Taxi, of course, Golden Axe, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Streets of Rage, and there were a couple of others confirmed, House of the Dead being one of them. You know, I mean, look, like I said in the opening, Umbra, I understand that people's hesitation to get remakes, you know, remasters. I get all of that. These are not remakes and remasters. These are taking existing IP and bring them into 2024 and 25 and beyond. I could not be more happier, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I mean, even with the ones you named, the Golden X's and all of that, the last Golden X I played was on Sega Genesis. You know,
dude,
speaking of
I beat them all. I play them once a year. I'm a beat 'em up guy. I play them all the time. Yeah. So those are classic. But I mean, we saw some of what they look like, and like Streets of Rage. Holy shit, it looks so good.
Yeah, Streets of Rage looks good. I mean, for me, if they would have given it to what was it, you're
talking about the people that did Turtles? Yes,
yeah,
man, Turtles, that's what I'm talking about.
Turtles and what you call it, part 4 of
Streets. Was it Streets of Rage?
It was Streets of Rage, right?
Yeah, what's Streets of Rage 4? Yeah.
So Streets of Rage 4, give it to them to do it. I've been all fine with that.
Just shut up and take my money.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, we got a resurgence of that. You even had the Double Dragon game that came out. I still have to get that, by the way. The one that
dude, I'm telling you right now, you start playing that number, knowing you as a gamer, you're not going to put it down. Me and Kay Asante talked about that. I beat that game 4 times. And you just want to, as soon as you beat it, you want to go right back into it. That new Double Dragon game, if you didn't get it, and you like side-scrolling beat 'em ups, please get that freaking game. Absolutely phenomenal.
Tell me they got Adobo still in there, the big Andre the Giant looking dude.
You know what? I'm pretty sure that they did have him in there. You know what? I played it months and months ago, and I'd be lying if I said, "Oh yeah, he's in there," and you go looking for him. He's not in there. I'm pretty sure he's there. I'd have to go look. I'd have to see, but I remember that character. Yeah.
No, but that's dope, man. I love the whole. I love them bringing back quality franchises. You know, it's good to see that, to me, in my opinion. Bring them and modernize them. There's way more than enough room for them, in my honest opinion. And maybe they could grow into something even more beyond just, you know, kind of 2D pixels and stuff like that, right? So hopefully, but with Crazy Taxi, though, getting back to our subject at hand, I'm loving everything I've seen so far and what I'm hearing. The whole 100-player survival thing that Jamie posted, I'm like, that sounds fun. So I wonder how that will work out, like, because it's open world, but it still looks like the general layout of the streets is similar to what
the original.
Yeah. So I want to know how that plays out, but it sounds fun, man. I'm all for it. The whole, I guess, MMO thing throws me off a little bit. I'm not used to MMOs, but I'm all for trying it out. I can't wait to see what they do.
I would not be surprised, Infinite Umbra, if there were the MMO mode that that they're advertising, as well as like there's going to be modes. I would imagine there's going to be an arcade mode or a quote unquote classic arcade mode. It makes too much sense not to actually have that, right? Like it would be kind of silly not to actually have
some type of time rush mode or something like that, I imagine, too. Like where you have to make certain deliveries before however much time. Yeah, I can see that too.